The Tesla Model Y has been out for about 3.5 years at this point, and today I'm going to review the 2022 version of this car after a year of driving it. Now, not much has changed on this car at all, and not much is expected to change until they do a full refresh like they just did with the Model 3. I've driven this car a ton over the past year, so I'm going to break down the good and the bad in my experience so far, so let's get into it. Overall, the Model Y is a pretty standard crossover SUV shape, and that's part of what has made it the best-selling car in the world of any type, not just electric cars, any car. You have 4 standard doors that open with this handle that's a little bit odd, and we'll get to that in just a second. And then, of course, you have a hatchback trunk and then a front trunk since it's electric. One of the great features about this car is the panoramic glass roof. So the windshield extends all the way to right here, and then there's one solid piece of glass extending all the way back. This gives you headroom as a passenger both in the front and the rear. That's a lot better than if there was just a normal lining there. And then it also gives you a great view, especially from the rear. And then from there, the hatchback takes over from here. One interesting thing to note about this glass is that it's almost flat like this, so the view up front is actually not very good when you're looking through the rear view mirror. It's actually just kind of a sliver, which you wouldn't expect with so much glass on this car, but it is the case. Right over here is the charge port door that charges with Tesla's NACS connector, so this will work great at any Tesla supercharger, and all brands in the US and North America are actually switching to this connector since it's much smaller and actually more capable than CCS. Around back, of course, is the hatchback that I mentioned, and it opens with a button here. You can also open it from the app or on screen. And then you have a bunch of space right here. There's a cargo shelf that Tesla added, I think around 2021 to this car. And it folds up kind of awkwardly like this, or you can fold it out and bring it out entirely. I have some all-weather floor mats installed in here, and if you're curious about these, I have accessories videos about those. But Tesla makes it so that there's a rear understorage right here. And then this closes and it's just completely flat. I think it's a really great design. And then this understorage compartment is actually very large and very usable. Like you could fit a full-size carry-on suitcase here if you want. One thing this mat is blocking a little bit is that there's actually a secondary understorage compartment further up here. So if I pull this up a little bit, there's more understorage right here. To me, this isn't the most useful because it's actually kind of small, but you could definitely fit something like a charger or something you're not going to be using that often and have it right there at all times. And then from there are 2 side cubbies as well, one on the left, one on the right. And then if you want to take storage to the next level from there, you can fold the seats flat. You could fold these seats with buttons on the seats themselves or these buttons right here. And then right away you have this large pass-through. I'm a drummer myself, so I'm loading drums in here all the time, and this space is extremely useful for me. Before we go inside the car, let's check out the other storage space you'll access from the exterior, the front trunk. The front trunk is also very large on the Model Y thanks to Tesla's engineering, and it's larger than most electric cars until you get into an electric truck. So let's open it from the app here. It's entirely manual, and I don't expect Tesla to change that anytime soon, but here it is. By entirely manual, I mean that I have to release it and open it myself and then close it entirely myself. The one thing that makes this quite a bit different than your average hood is that you don't slam this at all. You actually bring it down very gently and then just click it close until it gets to 2 clicks right there, at least on mine. So this is my Tesla mobile connector and then just like a general safety kit, as well as an insert here that I have, but I'll take that out so you can see the full space that this front trunk has. Right under here, under this mat, this is actually the tow accessory. In an emergency towing situation, this is what you would use, and this is stored in the front trunk at all times. And then this would go right here, but most people are never gonna really need to touch this. So I'm gonna close this front trunk gently, and then one thing you'll notice about my car that a 2023 Tesla Model Y does not have anymore is these ultrasonic sensors. Tesla is all about getting rid of as many sensors as they can in favor of vision, since this car has 8 cameras, which we'll detail now. Depending on your year of Model Y, there are either 2 or 3 cameras up here on the rear view mirror housing, as well as one for the interior. Then there's a camera right here and one in the exact same position on the other side. There's another camera right here and in the same position on the other side. And then right here is your reverse camera. These are the stock 19-inch Gemini wheels, and for my money, these are the best ones because they're the cheapest, they get the longest range, and they have the best ride quality. But they do have these aero covers, and you can take them off if you prefer the look of the wheel underneath. I personally don't mind this cover, except that almost everyone has it. So when you go to find your Model Y, especially if you get white like I did, it's actually sometimes kind of hard to find your car. So there are other covers you can get that fit the same wheels that maybe could make your car stand out. As you can see, this is a white Model Y, and this is a dual motor long range, which gets around a 330 mile EPA range. In the real world, you could expect like maybe 300 or a little bit less, and then I have the white interior inside. One fun part about the Model Y is teaching everyone how to use the door handles, because they might walk up to it and kind of do this, expecting the door handle to pop up. They might press here, but really all you do is you put your thumb right there and then grab. The main features up front are pretty self-explanatory. Right in here under the armrest, there's center console storage. You have 2 cup holders, then you have this drawer that slides, and there's more storage here. And then there's a wireless phone charger for 2 phones. I will say this kind of operates as like a wireless phone heater. Most of the time, my phone is going to give me that warning that says charging has been put on hold because of the temperature of your phone. It almost always happens on this charger, so I think they could definitely improve this charger a lot. But then you have steering wheel, 2 stalks, and this is something that will change with the refresh. They've gotten rid of stalks entirely on the Model 3 refresh. Over here, the button to open the door, window controls. Up here is your visor with a little flap that brings down your mirror with a light. Rear view mirror, of course, that interior camera that I mentioned, and this will come into play if you're using full self-driving features. Your flashers, a couple lights here, and then the screen, which is what you're going to be interacting with the majority of the time. Tesla often gets a lot of flack for build quality, and this is something I've actively seen improve on their end. This car is much better built than any other Tesla I've previously driven or used from previous years, and I think overall, even from their Fremont factory in California, their cars are getting better when it comes to build quality. But I did have 2 rattles in this car that I just recently got fixed, and they took 2 service appointments to get fixed because they're just always impossible to find. As a Tesla owner, I think you're gonna just be waiting until you get that rattle, and it's the most frustrating part about owning a Tesla. I love the car, but I know eventually there's gonna be a rattle that's gonna show up at least somewhere. If that could be completely eliminated in future Teslas, that would be awesome, but I believe this is the 5th one I've owned. They've all had rattles. Here's a clip of the rattle that was on the rear view mirror housing. And then kind of the worst one ended up being right here below where the seatbelt is on the passenger side. For the first appointment, they were just addressing this rattle right here, and I have no complaints about the appointment at all. They were super nice, it was super easy and flawless, but as I drove away about 5 minutes later, this rattle came back. So the second appointment, we did another test drive with this one, and I was able to diagnose this one and replicate it for them, and then both have been fixed since then. Of course, both were covered under warranty as well. I'm 5'10", and the back is actually fairly comfortable to me, and these seats can also recline just a little bit if you so choose. And then right here is the center seat, which folds down for some cup holders. This is probably going to change in that refresh where it's going to come all the way out here. Might even have a wireless charger or something. But headroom is really great for my size at 5'10", and I think the glass roof helps a lot with that, all while providing a really awesome view. Up here are garment hooks, and then there are seat back pockets, 2 USB-C ports for rear passengers, and then very standard vents. All of those features are great, but let's take it for a drive to see how it's really doing when I'm using it day to day. The basic controls you interface with all the time are actually these scroll wheels. So the left one is going to control my media. I press it to resume or pause. I scroll up and down for volume, and then I go next track or previous track. And then I can see everything that I'm dealing with right here. Tesla also recently added some other options to the scroll wheel, so I can press and hold this scroll wheel, and then I can click menu, and I can actually change what options I'm dealing with right here on screen. And let's say I want to change my screen brightness. Now I can scroll up and down to adjust my screen brightness with this left scroll wheel. I think this is basically their way to map some other options for what people might prefer, since they have so few physical controls. So the default is always going to be volume, but if there's some setting that you're like, I don't want to deal with the screen right now, you can instead just go over here to this menu and scroll through things like temperature. I personally think that for things like temperature or fan speed, it's much easier just to interface with the screen, but some people will prefer this. The right scroll wheel is all dedicated to Autopilot, so we'll get into that when we demonstrate Autopilot. And then the right stalk all has to do with driving. So I press the brake, go all the way down on the stalk, and I'm into drive. To go into reverse, I just go all the way up on the stalk. I go kind of halfway on the stalk to go into neutral, and then I just press this to go into park. Left stalk is your windshield wipers and blinkers. A lot of other brands are actually taking this same stock concept from Tesla, so it's a really nice basic stock that works really well on electric cars, except they're actually changing that in the new Model 3 and likely this car soon to be shifting on screen instead. So now I'm going to drive and my feet are off the pedals and nothing is happening because I'm in hold. And this is one of my favorite features of electric cars, and Tesla really nails this. It's regen braking. So I'm able to use one pedal driving the majority of the time unless there's a very sudden stop, because it's regen braking automatically when I'm lifting my foot off of the accelerator. So right now I'll just press a little bit and I'm going, and then I let off and it's automatically braking, and we'll go to a full stop. And then will hold for me so my feet don't have to stay on the pedals. It actually makes the drive a lot less taxing, especially in things like traffic or going up and down a mountain where you would normally have to go back and forth between the two pedals. You could actually just stay on one pedal the majority of the time. The Model Y's steering is really tight and really good, and the handling is actually really good as well, and also the acceleration. Those dual motors provide a 0 to 60 of 4.8 seconds stock on the dual motor all-wheel drive Model Y, and then you can upgrade that. You can pay for an acceleration boost for $2,000, I think, or maybe it increased to $3,000 recently, I forget what it is, and that brings your 0 to 60 down to 4.2 seconds. I actually got that through the referral program, so let's check out how fast that is. Woo! It's a launch. Oh man, it's wild that this is a crossover SUV and such a functional car, and it has that speed attached to it. Of course, there's other quicker electric cars out there, but this, especially day to day, is really fantastic and takes it above to where I'd say it's fun. It's not actually necessary, this level, and that's why it's an acceleration boost. But most of the time that instant torque is actually really useful when merging onto the freeway and stuff. I'm really a fan of having it for those situations where you just need to take off. I'm driving over some pretty bumpy roads, and it's pretty good. It does a really good job, and especially sitting in the back, that's gotten a lot better than previous years. So one of the cool things about the screen in a Tesla is that you're constantly getting software updates, and they really do bring out new features. So this interface right here, where the music pops over to the side instead of being right here, that's new as of a few months ago. And if I bring it down, it pops down to here, and then I can bring it back up. That whole thing, that is new as of a few months ago. When I first got the car, it only had Spotify, and now it has Apple Music and Tidal support. And it has all those cameras around the sides, but they weren't fully utilizing them, and now they are. When I turn my right blinker on, I have a camera right here, and not only is it this camera, but this camera feed is actually improved with a software update. When I first got this car, this camera feed was fine, but now it actually has gotten a lot better. The colors are way more accurate, the white balance is much more accurate, so everything has improved with the cameras just via software, no hardware change. And of course, if I switch over to the left blinker, it's there. And it's really fast, it pops up right away, there's really no delay. So as soon as you need to turn and look in your blind spot, it's right there for you. Overall, the screen in a modern Tesla is really good, and the UI is really good and responsive, which is very important. Even other electric cars that are making great interfaces, sometimes their screens just aren't very responsive. So you're interfacing with it and then you're having delays, which when you're driving is just not an ideal setup. The Tesla does a really good job. So here I am scrolling through Tidal. We can see how good that is. I'll go to my settings here. Just switching to these menus, it's pretty much instantaneous. So all of your basic controls are controlled on screen, including things like the glove box, adjusting your mirrors, adjusting your steering wheel, windshield wiper options if you need to change it off of auto or do a custom version there, and then more in-depth stuff like switching between chill or sport acceleration modes, changing your steering mode, or turning on and off special options like this for regen braking. This is another feature that was added in a recent software update. I'll try to explain it quickly. It used to be that when you charge your battery up to 100%, you can't regen brake because there's nowhere for the energy to go back to the battery because the battery is completely full. So when that would happen, you would be driving a normal car again. So you're used to one pedal driving all the time, and then all of a sudden it's not regen braking and you have to go back and forth between the two pedals. But now they've added this setting right here that when you turn it on, it basically emulates regen braking all the way up to 100%, and it does a really fantastic job, so you have one pedal driving all the time. A lot of people worry about having a lot of the controls for a car on a screen, but I think you just really get used to it. Some of the only stuff that I'm really interfacing with on a day-to-day is turning down the temperature or turning it up, because I pretty much always leave it on auto because it does a great job. And then I'm using the scroll wheels for music, and I'm tapping on the screen to navigate to, let's say I want to listen to this album, navigate there. It's all really seamless and really quick, and it's stuff that I wouldn't rather be doing with scroll wheels. It's actually much quicker for me to do on the screen. With that said, there are a few exceptions. Like for instance, the glove box being over here on the screen. I mean, it's right there. Can't I just have a button? Do I really need a screen option? Then for lights as well, that is handled on screen along with windshield wipers if you're changing it from auto, but they've actually done a pretty good job with a recent update again to where it pops up right here. So right here I'm driving and I just have my maps view. If I just turn on my brights for a quick second, these options show up, and then I can turn my lights on, auto, off, or on parking. Same with windshield wipers. If I press the stalk to initiate the windshield wipers, the option pops up right there. Their idea is that you're going to be using auto windshield wipers. I'd say auto windshield wipers would get like a C-. Most of the time it's not wiping fast enough for the rain, or it's wiping too fast for the rain, or for some reason it's just deciding it's raining even when it's not. So that's one thing you will likely actually need to engage with quite a bit. You'll need to press this and be like, okay, I want it on 3, not on 5, and then you can switch back to auto or off as needed. The entire screen is Tesla's own system, so you don't have CarPlay or anything like that, but I think they have done a really good job and they're always improving it. Maps is really good, and it's one of the best map systems you'll see because it fills up such a big screen. So let's navigate right here. I'm gonna go to Tito's Tacos, Culver City. It's calculating the route. If I needed to charge on the way, it would automatically route me there. I can see all my steps here, close that, and get my step-by-step. I can also add a stop, edit my trip, or change trip settings right here as needed. They're getting their data here from Google Maps, so I think it's pretty reliable. I've really never had an issue with Tesla's mapping. So let's see if I want to drive to San Francisco. That's further than the range of this car, and right away it's navigating me to 2 different superchargers on the way. It even shows you more details if you click on them, so I'll tap on that supercharger right here. It shows me that there are 2 out-of-order stalls, but this charger itself has 10 stalls, 150 kilowatt max speeds. 5 stalls are available at this current moment, and it even shows me a chart of when it's the busiest, as well as some images of the charger itself and what amenities are there. Now let's check out that other one up in Gilroy. 16 stalls available, and it looks like none are broken. Getting that information live in the car is extremely useful and much better than most charging networks out there. But the other aspect is just how many superchargers there are. So let me zoom out here, and then I'm just going to click superchargers. Look at this. And for the most part, these are all going to be reliable, very quick chargers that are available to me whenever I show up at them. And some of these chargers are absolutely gigantic. 63 stalls available at this charger at the Tijuana outlets, 76 stalls in total. Kettleman City right here, 55 stalls. I believe right across the street from that, there's one that has 40 stalls. It's just pretty remarkable to see how many superchargers there are, and Tesla's lead here is incredible, and I'm glad to see them partnering with other automakers. One thing you may have noticed is that the visualizations were a little more involved, and that's because I'm running the FSD beta. For the average customer, the included auto steer system is really great and goes above and beyond. And one thing I like about the FSD beta is that if you're kind of tired of using it, you can just switch back to the auto steer beta. And I actually find myself doing this on certain road trips or stretches where I don't want the Tesla to be choosing lane changes for me. I'll just go back to auto steer so I can just stay in a lane, and then I'm in control of when it's lane changing. That said, I have it set up right now as it comes stock with a Tesla, so let's check this out. One thing that differentiates this systems from others is that you can use it on normal roads. Right here is where it'll indicate that it's available. So I'm on a normal road, as long as it has clear markings, I can just go for it. And it's gonna do a good job, but it's not gonna stop for this signal because I don't have the more advanced features installed right here. So I have to obviously stop for that. Once I get through this light, I'll re-engage it. For me, the only time I would use the normal autopilot system on a normal street like this is if it's a really long stretch that I'm going to be on for a while, and I'm fine taking over for signals and such. Most of the time, I'm going to be driving myself on normal roads, then get on the freeway, and once I'm on the freeway in a decent lane I want to stay in for a while, then I'll enter into autopilot. To disengage, I can just go up on the stalk, and now we're braking, and then I can take over, or I could have pressed the brake. All right, so normally this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to be manually merging myself onto the freeway. Maybe get into the exact lane that I want to be in, and then I'll enter into autopilot. Great to have these blind spot cameras here as I'm turning. And now I'm in a lane, and let's go for it. Pressing down once is traffic aware cruise control. I see that indicated here, max speed, and I am still handling my steering. So it's gonna brake or speed up for me as needed up to 77 miles per hour. Or I can go into autopilot with a double press down, and now it's handling steering for me as well. And then the options here, I can scroll up or down to increase or decrease my top speed, and then I can click right or left to increase or decrease my following distance to the cars around me. There are other things that you can dial in within the Autopilot settings, but you wouldn't want to do this while you're driving really. But you can change options for when you enter Autopilot. Is it going to go a certain miles per hour above the speed limit? Is it going to take your current speed? What is it going to do there? All of that is stuff you can dial in when you're not driving. So it has been driving this whole time. It's doing a great job. We're going to come up to this truck here, and it's going to probably need to slow down a little bit. Let's see how it does there, and then I'll take over to do a manual lane change. With the basic Autopilot system, you're going to have to take over to do your own lane changes. So this is what it's like for everybody. All right, it's slowed down. The way I usually do this is I fully disengage, turn, and then re-engage once I'm in the new lane. You could also do this another way, which is to put on your blinker, steer out of it, then you're still in traffic-aware cruise control, and then you steer into the new lane, and then you go back into Autopilot. I personally prefer to just handle the whole thing once I'm changing lanes. But that auto lane change that comes with the full self-driving package, it is pretty nice because I can just do the stock like that, and now I'm changing lanes. Of course, it's waiting and doing it once it's safe to do so. So if you're inclined to check out the full self-driving beta, the first 2 ways to do it are to get a free 3-month trial by using anyone's referral link. Mine is linked in the description below. If you buy a Tesla with a referral link, you will get that automatically for 3 months, and I think that's a great way to try it out. But then also you can subscribe for $200 a month to try it out if it really seems like it's something that's worthwhile to you. Immediately you'll notice now I've turned on the FSD beta. This is that full upgraded package that can handle any situation as long as you're paying attention and ready to take over, because it likely will mess up. The visualizations are much more involved. It's showing all of the road markings and absolutely everything that the computer inside, matched with the cameras, is understanding, seeing, and figuring out how to deal with. It even shows brake lights on the cars in front of me. So now I'm going to go into the FSD beta here, and it's going to take me along this road, and then it knows I need to turn in about 1.3 miles. So far, so good. I've been using the beta for a couple months now, and at times it's incredibly impressive. It's like seeing a brand new AI come to be that's driving in the world. And then at other times it's just like, how on earth could you not figure out this most basic situation of driving where any human can handle that? A 16-year-old who just got their learner's permit can handle this. How could this car not figure it out with all of these cameras? It's a mix of both of those, which is why I don't think the price is at all worth it at this point. It's definitely cool to play with. Last minute, good job braking there. Oh, now here we got some construction cones, and it has it all rendered. Seems to be doing a good job. It's getting through it all right. Oh, okay, you could have just continued. Oh, all the way to the right lane. That was pretty aggressive and unnecessary, because in 0.4 miles, we're gonna have to turn left. Not really sure what it intended there. So as you can see, there are some mistakes happening, some stuff that's just like, what is going on? So it's not at all just like a sit back, relax, let the car drive for you. It's like a sit back, very much pay attention, get ready to take over because the car might do something dumb. But it's handling all these situations that it's pretty impressive that a car can do. The other thing about the FSD beta is just sometimes it's like a launch. Like, it's fun to launch in this car when you want to launch and you're intending to launch. But when it's driving for you and it launches, it's like, why did we need to do that? Could you have let me know that we were going to launch? It's like having my wife in the car and just suddenly launching without any warning. She's not going to be too thrilled. All right, so we got a merge coming up here. We got enough space behind us, but it's slowing down because it doesn't seem too sure. All right, I figured it out. Proceeding through. Now it's got to take this left. Definitely slowing down a lot prior to signaling. Okay. Oh, stay in this lane, please. All right, should be able to go now. Oh, very slow, gentle, careful. Cross the yellow line there, like fully. Another way you can control your Tesla if you don't want to use the screen or you don't want to use the left scroll wheel to get to more options is voice commands, but in my experience, I almost just never really cover them because they're not very useful at all. You can also do texting through your phone, but it's just not super reliable. and I just don't find them super useful. But let's demo it real quick. Change temperature to 73. Try again, and then it changed it to 74. Change temperature to 71. Try again, and it changed it to 72. Play Come Fly With Me by Frank Sinatra. It says it's playing it, and it's playing Come Fly With Me by Jimmy Candle. And the reason is because when I go in here to my music search, it literally searched Come Fly With Me by Frank Sinatra. So this demo is something I've done before with the Model 3. Still has not changed. It did come up there in my search results, but it's trying to play a song with that title when it's searching, so the voice command for finding a song is rarely useful. At least for me. I'm usually looking for something pretty specific when I'm listening to music. I guess for the average person, maybe they're just trying to play some music, and it can probably handle that all right. Overall, I have no real complaints about driving this car. It's quick, it's very easy to handle, it feels smaller than it is in a good way. You're up on the road, but it's not just like a full SUV. It still feels like it's connected to the Model 3, which gives it that sporty feel, which I personally really like. And then it's very versatile with all the storage it has and everything. I think it's a great car, and I've tried the Tesla Model S, Lucid Air, the Rivian R1S, the Rivian R1T, the Polestar 2. I've tried the Tesla Model 3. I've tried the Tesla Model X, Ford Mustang Mach-E, Hyundai Ioniq 5. This one is actually my favorite of all those cars. Sure, there's plenty of things that are better in other individual cars, but as a complete package for what I need, I love the Model Y, and I think a lot of people do, which is why it's the best-selling car of any type in the world. Okay, so I'm pulling up to this 250 kilowatt supercharger. I navigated to it, so the battery preconditioned already, and now all I do is I'm gonna line up here and back in, and then there's no payment system, there's no nothing. Everything is handled by Tesla internally. So backing up here, I get out. I'm gonna come over here, grab the hose, click the button, it'll automatically open the charge port for me, plug in, and we'll see this turn from blue to green once it's charging. And here we go, we're charging. Simple as that. That actually took less time, I think, than it would take to start filling up with gas. Definitely faster than any other EV charger out there. It's always going to be best to charge at the lowest charge, so I arrived with something like 55%. It's already up to 110 kilowatts, but that's because we're on the lower part of the charging curve. We would have seen 250 if we were closer to zero. But up to 80% charge limit from 57, it's going to take about 13 minutes right now. If you're able to charge at home, the majority of the time you're not even going to really need to supercharge, and this will be your experience. You get home, pull into your driveway or your garage, you grab your charging cable, you plug in, you're good to go, and it's going to charge up overnight on your off-peak hours. Oftentimes it seems like people are worried that charging is going to take up a bunch of extra time, but I've only saved time since switching to an electric car. I don't road trip all that often, and when I do, yes, it does add a little bit of time to that road trip, but the rest of the time I'm saving time by not going to a gas station. I don't have to go out anywhere. My car is charged up every single night, and then I don't ever have to stand in a line or anything. Overall, the 2022 Model Y has been great to own, and Tesla has made a lot of improvements to this car over the last couple of years. This is my daily driver, and it's packed with features that make it convenient and fun to drive. Besides a few rattles, this car has a ton of cargo space, charging is effortless, and it's super zippy. Some people are concerned about the white seats staining over time, but I still haven't had an issue with that so far. I will be sure to keep you updated if I run into any issues though, so make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss those in the future. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about how Tesla has managed to stay so far ahead of the competition, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.